do when I'm on scene, I'll be assuming Caroline Street Command. I got a 2.5-story wood occupied multiple dwelling. I got heavy fire from the second floor, Charlie side. I have an exposure on the Delta side. We have one line stretch not in operation yet. Primary searches are underway. Status of the fire is doubtful. One passing command. I'm on the first line. Service speed advised. We're on scene. 2-story wood frame. I got heavy fire from the Alpha side.
Welcome back, fans of the Volley Chief. Chief Lenart here. I have a guest, Doug. What state are you from, Doug?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Great Lake State.
I'm going to say you actually had more of I pick up your accent a little bit, which I know we have an accent out here in the New England area. We're smack between Boston and New York, so we kind of get a little bit of both. But I'm going to let Doug introduce himself. We're going to talk a little bit. So Doug, it's your mic. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name is Doug DeBest. I'm a lieutenant at the St. Joe Township Fire Department Station Number 1. I just got promoted January 1st, but I've been the training officer there for over 2 years. I moved to a department about 3 years ago. Before that, I was on the Baroda Fire Department for 15 years. Started as a volunteer firefighter, moved all the way up to a volunteer fire chief. Hit all the different ranks going through it. And then I decided to retire and move on to a different department in my county. But I have 28 years of fire experience. Started out as a volunteer in college, and then got lucky enough to be a career firefighter in the Metro Grand Rapids area, second largest city in Michigan, and then became a fire chief. Got married and moved and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I actually went into nonprofit for 5 years and worked part-time at the University of Notre Dame as a firefighter. And then I became an industrial firefighter at a nuclear facility here in Southwest Michigan. And I worked there for 8.5 years. And then now I actually work for American Electric Power as a safety and health coordinator. And I'm out and about with distribution crews and forestry crews, checking on them and making sure that they're working safe, following our procedures, and providing safety training for them.
Okay, nice. So it's a very diverse background. You have the career, the volunteer, different departments, and in college industrial settings, and then obviously you moved on to the desk job of occupational safety and health type stuff. So that's pretty cool. I know when you contacted me, we talked a little bit. We talked about some training issues, and you actually said you could talk training, all day, every day. So I had an interesting situation the other day, and I know that these podcasts get released weeks out. So obviously because I release them, but and I thought let's talk about it because I think it's a very common situation. So my company was dispatched oddly enough to a CO alarm. Right. And upon arrival, lo and behold, as happens a lot in the fire service, what the first floor occupant thought was a CO alarm was actually the smoke alarm in the back bedroom was going in a very, very, it was, 2.5 wood apartment building or apartment, not really a building, but a house. There was 2 apartments on the first floor, 2 apartments on the second floor, stairwell, front door in the middle of the building, stairwell right up to the top with a landing door to the left and the right. And out of life coincidences, I was at my parents' house, which put me a block and a half away from the fire. Which being a true volunteer, I heard the CO call came in. I was like, eh. Then I heard him say it was a fire. I was like, I'm on my way, Batman. So upon my arrival, the first new engine, they were in the process of stretching. So they had again pulling up, expecting a CO alarm. When they realized it was a fire, the chauffeur pulled up a couple 100 feet, took a hydrant big. So our area were hydranted well. So they took a hydrant big, they stretched back, but it was a very young crew. And the stretch, we spoke after. I've spoke to the guys on the line. We've actually done a little bit, but they got to the front door, fires in the second floor of the rear bedroom. They basically at the front door called for water, and then moved the charge hose line throughout the building from apartment to apartment trying to find the fire. And afterwards I gathered the crew up and I had a conversation about the how do you think the stretch went, and even they even agreed that it was a little bit subpar. But again, I can't fault them because it was, you know, again, young crew, only a couple years experience between them. This was probably the first time that they went out on a what should have been a CO alarm, and lo and behold, it turned into a fire. I mean, obviously they were equipped, they had all their gear, they got off the rig with packs. You know, the only thing was they were carrying a meter till they walked up to the front door and realized that this might not be what it was advertised as. So I started thinking about, you know, when we were younger, when we first joined, and how we progressed, and I I've sat down with them. We've actually stretched a couple of times for since then back at the firehouse. So like what steps would you take as a training officer, as someone, what walk us through, like what would you do in a situation like that? You had a young crew, and again, you almost can't fault them out of you know, they did everything by the book, right? They stretched, they had their gear properly, but they were missing that, I guess you'd say, experience on how to handle the situation. So, Doug, I'd ask, like, what do you think of a situation like that?
So, my first thought is, we always talk about being prepared, and the what dispatch gives us may or may not be 100% true. And so, I tell my guys, when we're coming off the truck, you got it, like you said, your gear, have that SCBA, have a flashlight, have a radio, have a tool, and be prepared for something different. Now, the one thing I'm not sure on the description you give is, um, you know, did the officer, the person, the senior firefighter, did they get off and say, "Hey, here's where we need to go," and have that kind of, I don't want to say 360, but have an idea which apartment they need to go to? Because I'm a full component of don't stretch that hose until I know where I'm going.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to
unfortunately,
unload the bed.
the senior guy in the was the driver. So, you know, and he's one of our best guys, and he's, you know, his focus was positioning the apparatus to get water. And you know, again, we're hydranted, so you know, I hate to say we're limited, because I know a lot of departments, if you have a tanker, you know, we only carry 500 gallons. We're well hydranted. So to us, the driver's focus is establishing a water supply. So that's what he
And I'll
was.
tell you, as a volunteer department, you never know who you're going to have on your truck or your
Correct.
engine. And my department, we all respond to the station, and then we respond out in groups. The first tier takes the first truck, second tier takes the second truck, third tier takes the next truck, and so you don't know. And we had a call of a car accident or a car fire just last week, and one of the senior firefighters was like looking at the crew he had after he got there, and then looked at the second crew and was like, maybe we should have waited to adjust, because he did not have a lot of experience on his first crew. But I will tell you that that's one of the things where those guys have to step up, and that's why training is so important. That you go through those things and talk about, hey, you never know when you're going to be in charge. I tell our probies, when we get them up, and they get through school, and it's like, hey, there might be a day you're in charge, and they're like, what? I may not show up. The chief may not show up. You're out of town. You never know. You have to have that, skill level and be able to make a decision. I went through a class last night, and they were talking about decisiveness of the officer. You have to make a decision with the information you have at that moment. So really, that senior person, if he's doing the job of driver, then the other next person down has to go, all right, hey, hold on a second. I know we're all excited because new guys are usually, ready to pull that hose if there's a fire. But say, hey, let's go figure out where we're going, what's going on. I'm a big component, having that industrial background of fire extinguishers. So hey, maybe the two of us grab a can first, two cans, and we go up and find out where this fire's at first before we start stretching the hose. If we can't see it, if it's not blowing out a window or a door, and we're in that investigative mode, I am all about taking a can with you, go up, figure out where it's at. If it's a room and contents, I can do a lot of damage with the fire extinguisher,
Yeah, the water
and
can.
then send the second guy back to get the hose. But I'm not a fan of stretching a hose into an apartment complex like that where I don't know where I'm going. Is it first floor, going down, going to the third floor? That's a lot of work, and it's a lot of time when I need to find out where I'm going. But bring it back, to training. You got to practice, and when we go out on those CO alarms, I'm a big component of everybody needs to go out there, even though it ends up being an alarm, finding the address, driving, time with the trucks, not just, oh, it's just one little thing, just let one crew go out. No, all the volunteers that showed up at the station need to roll out, not emergency, but roll out so they're learning the streets, learning the address, driving the trucks. And then when we get there, hey, where's the water supply? Like you said, knowing where that hydrant's at. Hey, how would we set up if there was a fire here? If this did turn out into being an emergency, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Are we going to have enough hose off our pre-connects? Are we going to need to pull a horizontal standpipe of some sort to extend our line? But take full advantage of that quick call that might just be a CO alarm or a false alarm, and make it a training moment. So the people are taking away some information. So if they get called back there in a couple days, they know where they're going.
Yeah, and another curveball to the situation was so again, different districts. We're densely populated, very small city, so it's 5 square miles with about 15,000 people in it. And of our 5 square miles, a third of it is a state park. So it's really about 3 square miles with about 14,000 people in it. The fire building was 7 buildings away from the firehouse. So you pulled out of the firehouse, made a right, a quick left, and it was
You're there.
a block away. You're there. So and that's a whole nother, we talk a lot about extended response times and how difficult extended response times could be. And like, well, by the time you get there, flip that around, having, that you're the neighborhood firehouse, and the amount of times people run up and bang on the door and say, hey, there's a house fire up the street is pretty good for a small volunteer department. So it's like they did it by all means. I mean, they did a great job. It's not like we burned the block down, or not like they even got out of the initial room. But it's just that, what are we doing training wise? Like, we talked about when we were young, and way back then when we were young, we used to do a lot on our own, right? If there was a group of us hanging around the firehouse, 4 or 5 guys, we started screwing with something. We started tinkering with something. And the stuff we did, you know, we would start trying to build rope systems. I mean, we learned a lot via error and problem. So I always say, like, I think that's something that we need to let the young guys know it's okay again. Like if you guys are at the firehouse and there's 4 or 5 of you there, sitting around looking at your phone versus start your own little drill. Like you said, even if you walk out of the firehouse and take a walk a block up the street and start looking at some of the buildings, talk about the building construction, talk about, hey, what would we do if there was a fire here? All things like that are a phenomenal, drill that you could have with very minimal. I mean, how hard is it to walk out of the firehouse and walk a block up the road and say, okay, this building's on fire. What are we going to do?
You're absolutely right. I'm a big fan of, walking around the town, taking your pre-plan with you, looking at building construction. That's one of those things. Apologize, we got a call going. But that's one of the big things to take advantage. I tell people, your town doesn't change overnight. Your response area doesn't change overnight. The buildings that are there, you can go look at them and pre-plan. Hey, how's this going to work? How would we respond? Water supplies. I came from some rural departments where we shuttled water all the time, and you can pre-plan where you're going to go get water. And
I always joke and say that nobody's ever put a new lake in.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And it doesn't happen overnight. If they're going to start digging a lake, it's going to take them a little while. But you go and practice with that. Can you draft out of a river, a creek, a pond? And so I truly believe in that pre-planning. The department I'm at right now, they didn't have a lot of pre-plans, and we've been working to improve that because we have some industrial facilities that we don't even know what's in them because the owners change so frequently. Renters come in, and it's kind of unknown what's going on in there. And it's like, we need to understand who owns them, key holder knowledge, so you can get a hold of somebody in the middle of the night. But like you said, when you're at the fire station, take full advantage of that time with that group and go, hey, if we were riding out together, who's driving? Who's going to be in charge? Who's going to, take the lead on pulling the hose off and, or, if it's cutting a car apart or whatever it may be, what kind of rescue call you're going to. But, one of the things I jotted down on a note here before we got started was, talking about training, is I try to make diverse groups up. Not just put the group that's always together. You know, they're like, oh
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
we always are on the first truck and we're always on the second truck. I actually use poker chips and put them in a little bucket and make the guys blindly pick out colors. And then, hey, all the reds are a team, all the blues are a team. And I make sure it's by certification levels and stuff, so you don't got all the probies and trainees on one crew and all the certified guys. That's not fair. But randomly put these guys together and go, hey, you guys are the six on this engine. How are you going to operate together? And give them a couple minutes to get in the truck, think about it, and then we pull out to go do a scenario just like they're responding. And they're, the chief officers are watching them going, hey, did they come off with the radio's tools? Did they do a size of, do they understand the task that they're given? And so I really like that you're talking about, getting those guys together. I really am advocate for letting the guys hang out at the fire station a little bit, talk, build those social bonds, and not just, hey, we went to the call and then all right, you got to leave and go home. It's spend a little time together, hang out, talk to each other, make sure you're learning from each other, not just on the call, but little tidbits from those older guys that that knowledge is going to walk out the door if we don't share it.
Yeah, it's funny because we're talking about getting out to your district and how things don't change overnight. So we actually did have a little bit of an overnight change, and the block that the firehouse is on, the building directly behind our firehouse, was a mom and pop Italian deli, and it was when I worked the ambulance ran out of the same firehouse, so that you'd come in the morning, we'd come in, do our ring check, grab our radios, walk around the block, go into the deli, get breakfast there, go over, get a cappuccino in the afternoon, a little pastry. It was nice. And they were, when I was, to me, when I was a kid, they were old, and now they're retired, and they sold it and it became a vape shop, to our surprise.
It's a
And
big change.
yeah, literally overnight they installed, roll down security doors and put bars on all the windows. So, it was like the phone blew up at the firehouse. It was like somebody passed, they were like, oh my God, Altamari's closed. Now it's a vape shop. So we took a walk over to check it out, especially with the roll down gate. And it's like one of those, they bought the good roll down the gate with the key to open it up, and the only way through it is to cut it. But now you're looking at the bars on the windows, and I'm looking at them because I'm like, they don't look right. And what I realized is they bought the black aluminum fencing from Home Depot and just screwed it into the frame of the window. So it's like, like we're talking about the importance of getting on training. Now, if I'm a newer member and I pull up to this building and I'm like, oh my God, look, this is, this building has a roll down gate and now there's bars on all the windows. And it's like, yeah, but you can probably sneeze and pull those bars off that window because they're not window bars. It's a aluminum fence that someone bought from Home Depot, and they used a sheet metal screw to attach it to the building. So it's that importance of getting out there and seeing what's in your neighborhood. And it's funny you said it doesn't change overnight, because that's what we joked about. It was like it literally happened overnight. And,
I mean, and when I'm talking doesn't happen overnight, it's the building.
right,
But
right. Oh, I know that, but
I'll tell you that security structures, those are things that we got to think about. And our county just put together made a policy countywide, which is awesome. And one of the things we talk about with those RIT teams is making sure you're doing that 360. How can you soften that building so if a firefighter's got to get out, they can. And you talk about security doors and gates. You got to know how to force them, you got to practice them. I'm lucky in our county we have a county prop, a door that we can bring around. It's on a trailer, and we bring it once a year to our fire station. Let the guys force doors and cut windows, and they got a rebar and stuff on it. It's a great training prop, and then the guys love it because it's hands on. They're breaking stuff, get to use their muscles. But you're absolutely right. If we don't train on those things, and so they understand construction part of, hey, look at the screw, look at the rivets on the back of the door, where are the bracings going to be on the other side of the door? They're going to go up there blindly and just start prying here and there. And you could pry all day on some doors that are reinforced and have wood, 4x4s on the back side of them holding them shut. You got to look at that, notice it, and go, you know what? I'm not going to even mess with this door. I'm going over here to the wall. I can bust through the wall easier and quicker. But again, it comes back to training. If you're not looking at to get that experience of how do I deal with doors and screws and fencing, um, young firefighters will see that and be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't get through here." And the experienced guy shows up and goes, "Oh, come on, here, give me a Halligan bar. We're through it in a couple minutes." And so that's where that whole thing of knowing your response area, understanding what's going on. And I'll tell you one key thing there that a lot of times get missed is the relationship between the fire department and the building inspection department of your municipality. So when they do have occupancy changes or they know a new building's coming into the response area, to have that forewarning, hey, something's going on here. This is changing. The fire chief or whoever is responsible for it needs to go out and look at it and see, is something changing here that is going to impact our response.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great point to finish it up. Like I said, I like to keep my thought process is I like to keep it on somebody's drive to work, which is about 20 minutes.
There
So
you go. We don't want to
yeah,
bore them.
no, you don't ever want to bore them. But Doug, I thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I appreciate it. I could cross Michigan off my list of states. I'm trying to get somebody
Hey,
from all 50 states. So I
hey,
thank you for
next time
that.
you're traveling, by all means, I live about 3 miles from Lake Michigan. Stop on by. I'd love to show you around. And anybody else, reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. Try to put some stuff out there. Um, one quick plug: the National Volunteer Fire Council has a training summit coming up in Buffalo, end of June. I'll be there speaking about culture in the firehouse. So
Okay.
by all means, please come out and hear some more good information from your volunteer leaders.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Help me keep the platform moving. And July 10th is our ambulance driver 5K to support the Storm Ambulance Corps here in Derby. It's our 75th anniversary, and we're starting and ending the 5K right at a brewery. So you get a free beer, and yeah, it's nice, right? It's
Yeah,
a
absolutely. That gets
good
me to do
selling
my
point.
5K.
Yeah. So Doug, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
FD1's back in service. Commands terminated.